So, hello and welcome. Today it's time for another of our live streams, and today I thought that we haven't done 50/50s in a long time. And I'm having our admin here, Dayah,
Good evening.
and she has been playing these 50/50s probably more than I have. And at the highest point, she has played these at $100 level, and I think she has played something like 20,000 of these when I'm having something like close to 5,000. So I think we should have a lot more experience from my left side here.
Well, we'll see about that, but I'm ready to comment and maybe give some input if if needed. I'm sure you can manage on your own, but I'm sure it's gonna be really interesting.
So today I'm thinking about doing a kind of a through the stakes type of thing. So we are starting with 1.5s, as these are the first level that's available to us. I think we had one player that I recognized here, and even he was a player that I want to play against, so looks good.
For sure.
And good evening to Neo, Saletein, Kauris, Virpa.
Donita, nice to see you all.
Plenty of you at the start of the session here. In here, I think that in general we can open quite a lot from the small blind, and I think in the long run we are printing money by carrying on c betting, and I think as people in general are going to be too passive in these 50/50s. I think even for most regs are having quite a needy base strategy, so there will be a lot of possibilities into exploiting that. But in general, it also means that one of our challenges will be not giving easy values to nits.
That sounds about right. But I think when we are going on the higher level buy-ins, it's going to be more obvious. And on these ones, when you're playing only $1.50, probably you're going to see a lot of limping, a lot of calling, not that much aggression in overall.
Nice situation in the top right.
Not anymore. What did you say about it? You just jinxed yourself. How does that feel like?
I thought that even in that point, even if it looks quite hopeless, there's always an opportunity for our opponent to check, and we can try to draw a king or a queen, so we would have a four outer for the river. But pretty much just no use paying for the.
Yeah, there's just too many combinations you lose to. So just save your chips to a later situation and pick another spot, basically.
And I noticed it quite interestingly on Kaleon's hand analysis coaching in Finnish when one of our members had sent 50/50 hand history, that these are probably about the only structures on PokerStars in tournament poker that these games now start without antes. But even in these games, the anteless time doesn't last long. I think it's 12 minutes, so like the first four levels are without antes, and when we are at 40, like when big blind is 80 and small blind is 40, then we are going to start with antes, and antes are really important in these games because there's always at least 6 people on the table.
That's so true. And when the antes come, basically it means that you need to build up your aggression because then you're gonna get more big pots. There's more money to be playable.
And now I'm seeing that it probably was a surprise for most most of our viewers that you were here as well.
Yeah. Like females can't play poker. Well, as well I could say that males can't play poker. It's like, why would you say something like that? In general, there are people who can play, people who can't play, and just by saying that females can't do that, I could easily say that males can't cook. Sure, some can, some can't. Who cares?
But that's actually quite a good point. And of course, in heads up, sit and goes, there are no antes as well. And PTRX says, when will you reg for the VCoop main event? I probably won't.
Unless some of you will donate that buy-in. Any chances?
Yeah.
Then we could surely play that.
But our coach Caleon did receive quite a few buy-ins for making Supernova Elite last year. So he played in these V Coops, or is it? It's not Scoop. It's W Coop that's going on right now. So he played a $2,100 event there, off stream of course, but.
Oh, there is someone who's real big fan of me already. Just beware, I can easily ban you. I've got the power. Yeah, basically haters gonna hate, but there is only a limit till I just get too frustrated with idiots. So you take your pick, basically. But yeah, no antes in Spinningo's either.
The other queen isn't so nice, but I think that we are still trying to go for a big value. And in here, even though the guy hasn't raised a single time, we can see from his stats that he's likely not going to be a reg.
No, it would be just too needy to fold there. I think it's a good call anyways.
Against pocket kings.
But anyway, there's a river. But if you would be too scared to call there, then you would be overall just too scared to play these games with that kind of guys. Of course, it wasn't a good play on his or her part. Min raising, never heard, but.
So now that we are getting provoked by our Twitch chat, should we now go for everything like his or her? That's
Of
one of the
course.
most annoying part in English, that like in Finnish there is always like there is only one pronoun for he or she. And then it's easy because you never think about it.
That's so true. And to be equal, you should be always say she or he. And the best part of these games, or poker, net poker overall, is that you never know who's against you. The best part or the worst part. So there can be anyone playing against you.
I think on some parts or somewhere around in USA or somewhere like California or somewhere, it's like it's not even enough anymore to go like he or she, but there's like third genders and stuff, and then it's like, no, don't complicate it even more.
Maybe we should start to use das from Germany.
Yeah, because it works really well for Volkswagen.
No pun intended. Yeah. Go on. Yeah, Markus is referring to a very, very weird interview we had 2 weeks ago or something, one of our members came to Tallinn to play some live events, and we met with him, and he wanted to do a bit of an impromptu interview in the middle of the night, and it's available on, for example, on our Facebook page, but it's in Finnish. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's like always a good idea to come here and then do an interview at like, I think it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. So always a good idea. Nothing cheers more than night. And actually, I think that being a woman in poker, it's probably more of an advantage than a disadvantage. I think that in general, men are going to play worse against women. There was a research study, like there's a Finnish researcher, and their research materials were also research quiz was also on our site, but like they had different avatars for players, and they noticed in the research that the female avatars were getting bluffed way more often than the male avatars.
And what does that say about the male players overall, if they get affected by their emotions more easily than women? Isn't that a bad thing?
But it didn't say anything about the gender of the people that answered the quiz. It's only what kind of avatars they saw. So
Yeah.
it's like even women can be, or maybe it was only that women were more active in bluffing other women. Might have happened.
Might have happened. Perhaps I was thinking about that in another way, because I have read quite a few comments from female poker pros that they say that the male, especially the male, are trying to bluff them way much more often than females or generally other people.
Nah. It's icky in a way, and we have 2 overcards, but still.
Save your chips, man. You will get a better spot later. And
I don't want to just save my chips. I want to get more of those. Chips are happy with friends.
Yeah, I know, but if you get yourself into icky spots, what will that result into? Losing all of your chips. And then you are having no fun anymore. No more.
And Nikkipen iso funny. The interviewer was super wasted. Well, what do you think if someone comes to Tallinn and is here all the time and like
it was Friday night, 3 o'clock a.m. in the Tallinn casino, when they have played poker in a place that the beer is probably among the cheapest in the whole city.
Like two euros for half a liter, so that's like you don't have to guess if it's more like it's a guarantee that it's, in a way, it's probably not going to be as nice or as good to be a Finn in Tallinn as most of the people in Tallinn are usually seeing Finns pretty drunk.
That's unfortunate but true. Quite often. At least if you watch Finnish people in the harbor area or in the old city part.
But now we have a lot of friends for our chips here.
Oh, that's so cute. Let's have a party.
Actually, we are having, like almost in all of these tables, our chips are having a lot of friends.
Yeah, you have been playing good. I have no complaints, so it's just easy to talk about something else. Sorry about that. Oh, no. Yeah.
And Tark says that's a Finnish thing. Doesn't really matter if the alcohol is cheap or not. Well, that's also true.
Yeah.
But
But
I think it's just more common if alcohol is cheap. That
it helps the situation, perhaps.
yeah.
If there's a race and there's a re-race or three bet, and that happens in middle position for both of those, there's just no point. Just
Yeah, like I think this is something where a lot of at least new players are making a lot of mistakes in thinking about like something like pocket sevens or pocket eights would be good if two players that are kind of passive are raising and three betting ahead of you. Usually, there wouldn't be that much point in taking part of the pot, and usually there is also no space in calling because the effective stack size are quite low already.
yeah, you can't just call. You shouldn't like put all in your money, and basically you should every time hit a set to be happy about the situation.
And Tark says that that's a universal thing, not only in Tallinn. Finns are assholes all over the world. I don't think that Finns are assholes. Like, I think that there are many other nationalities that are like taking it. Like Finns are usually only just super wasted. That's more of the thing.
Sometimes it means that you are wasted, you are an asshole, but it's not always. I don't know if I should even defend us anymore, but we are drinking coffee, so there is that.
Like saving the Finnish culture. Not drinking alcohol in Sunday evening. Whoa.
Well, at least I'm not wearing a white hood or anything. We have seen some dark things around here.
And this ace 5 suited. It's just too pretty to fold and too awkward to min raise.
I kind of like that. It was suited anyway. And
I don't think that do I like anything here. I just think that he has been opening way too much. So like I think almost or at least every pocket pair would be a raise there.
I probably wouldn't have shopped like the lowest ones against him. But he's more steady. He has more steady stats than most of the guys. So there's a question about the real estate in Tallinn compared to Finland. Uh, Basically, it's way better situation, like in overall. The prices were at the lowest point probably 3 to 5 years ago, and they were on the lowest point then, and it was really good time to invest in the real estate if you were into that kind of stuff.
But I think it's still like now they are saying that if you are like you can have a 2 bedroom house, you can either have it in Helsinki or Manhattan, the price is the same. That's quite insane to think about.
It is, and even though the prices had come up in Tallinn like quite a lot during the last 2 years, like during the last year they have risen like, I don't know, 20% or something. There was something I read about it, but I don't remember for sure. Anyway, they had risen quite a lot, but still they are so much more affordable than in Helsinki, for example.
And I think that there's also like there's a difference. Like if you are thinking about like the regular houses or like the communist cubes. Those can be. I can't even say interesting. I can say that those can be quite horrible. That's probably the honest way of talking about it. But I think that like the new apartments that people are building here, they are pretty much at the Finnish level. But isn't it the same in Finland that Estonian people come to build the Finnish houses anyway? So it it shouldn't be a surprise that the I think that the standard is quite the same in.
Quick note, there's a bubble. You should have raised that. Min raised at least. Because if all those smaller stacks are folding, it just happened. The one guy fell down. So it gives a huge amount of.
I think that this guy is just going to be too big, with a too big of a stack and probably not going to fold enough. But let's try it when we are having the big stack.
And now when it fails, it's all my fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we
If
go.
it works, I did fine. If it fails, it's all your fault.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like a win-win.
It's almost like a relationship. It's always my fault. But anyway, in the price when you could buy a small 2-bedroom flat in city center of Helsinki, you could probably buy 180 square meters of own house here somewhere in Tallinn area, or even more.
I think that if the place is comparable, it's probably that Tallinn is like 2 to 2.5 times cheaper than Finland. That would be my estimate. And there are super expensive places in Tallinn as well. But this is weird in a way. I think that because these guys are so needy, I want to min raise fold against this guy and min raise call this guy rather than shove, because I think that with shoving we are just going to get our.
What did he have?
I don't know. It's like
Well, how can you 3-bet with that?
3-bet with no fold equity.
Indeed.
I think that he just thought that he'll need to do something.
And with that kind of stats, you start to be creative at that point. I don't quite get that.
Aren't the artists always saying that it's never too late to start being an artist?
Sure thing. Oh, that was a nice stack to end the game with. You got loads of dough out of it.
Yeah, I think that I got like most of the chips there. There are 15,000 chips and I got more than 8,000 there, so I need to be satisfied.
Should we talk about the structure, how the chips are affecting the price you'll get?
We can talk about it probably a bit later on.
Just stay tuned.
Yeah. I think that when we are like only 3 tables left on a single stake, then we can talk about the.
Well, that's a good point.
And Marcus Wise says that I thought they liked quick structures in Tallinn until I went to play one tournament there. Like, I think it's in a way, it's going to be that the structures in here are going to be really good value. Like if you like to play live poker, if you like to play deep stack with small blind increases, it's going to be great in here, because even the smallest buy-in tournaments, like something like 20 euros and like I think something like 2 euros goes to rake, and the tournament can still last for
8 hours.
like 6 or I think 6 hours is closer, but it's something like 2 to 3 hours before, if you fold every hand, you are getting to 10 big blind stacks. So the structures are usually quite nice in here.
And Actually, the game when we went to see our friend in Tallinn, it started 7 o'clock.
And ended probably 3 o'clock. So
Yeah.
Yep.
When the heads up finished, it was something like closer to 3.
Yeah, but it was the rebuy tournament. So that's probably why it's the difference. I thought about the freeze outs.
Okay, yeah, I get you. That probably made a bit of a difference.
In here, 8 players remaining. We just need to go with this, even against this creative Russian here.
Creative Russian, aren't they all?
And Pikusak Miku, hi Pokeramaniacs, is today going to be just 50-50s? Yeah, today it's going to be just 50-50s. And Danitas says that 50-50s are probably good games, mindset-wise. Games just disappear and you never know how your session has gone. I think that's one of the best points in these games. These games, all in all, that it isn't so easy to know how your session has went, because like in normal games you always know that if you didn't get to heads up and your game is removed, it's always going to be bad. And in 50-50s it's going to be a bit different. Like your game can end, but it's just like 2 people are eliminated in the bubble and everything goes. In here, in general, I like to shove these, but I just don't get what better hands would we get to fold there. Like now if the good old protection bet would have not failed that point. I just can't see that we are getting enough equity there. That was like getting creative and getting screwed really badly.
Well, sometimes you can just skip the creative part and
I thought in there that it's going to be a nice spot to start with a min raise there, because I think that we are going to get about equal amount of folds either way. But then we are going to make it more awkward for the players with a larger stack behind us to take part in the pot, in the bubble. But I think I miscalculated or misjudged the situation a bit. And Marcus Wise says that like in Vegas they had pretty fast structures. I played 3 deep stack tournaments in one day. I think that there are insane tournaments sometimes that you can say that there's like deep stack turbo. It's a bit of a same than there is a mini mega burger in Hesburger. That's the biggest hamburger chain in Finland. And it's like mini and mega, like small and big. It's like a regular hamburger. Like the same with some deep stack turbos. Like you can start with like 300 BBs deep, but then when first blind level comes in 15 minutes, then the stack is halved, and in 15 minutes it's halved again, and like in an hour you are having 20 big blinds, and then you are wondering like what's the deep stack in here.
True. But there's a question on Twitch chat. If you had a chance now, would you buy an apartment in Estonia or in Finland? That's a good question. I think it depends what you are regarding as the decision points.
If you are thinking about straight up as an investment, I think that Tallinn is going to be a better place than Helsinki right now. Yuck. This is a really horrible situation in here. Like, why did I fold here is that if I fold, this guy and this guy will be forced all in before me. If I do anything in here, if I limp, if I min raise, I'm going to be all in before this guy.
That's true. My first thought was, okay, sure, min raise, but then if you are forced to fold, then you are all in during the next few hands, and that's not going to be a good thing.
But like if we are quick enough folders, like if we are serial folders, like we can see that there's in 1 minute the blinds are going to increase, and it's going to be a spot where if we can just avoid the 200 to 400 blinds, we should be golden and this guy should go all in before us. And this is something that in general doesn't happen in other structures that often. Like in hypers and in 50-50s, there are a ton of these situations that you need to calculate it before, that who's going to be the first one all in, who's going to be forced all in. And this is pretty much the worst case scenario for us, because now we are going to be forced to. That's not the worst case scenario. If everybody folds to us, it's like the hand is played perfectly, we don't need to care about that. But this guy, I can't think about any hand that you'd want to fold against the other small stack here, because in this case, if we are thinking about the situation, you like if you are having the small stack and you are having another small stack, another small stack is going to be the player that you don't want to give any chips to. And in here, I opted for a shove because this guy probably is going to be. This guy probably is going to be, in my opinion, the guy is going to be calling too few hands. And so, like right now, we are moving higher up to 3.5s.
Actually, that
to
might...
the 350s.
Whoa. Actually, that might have been a hand that I would like to see through later on, because I'm not completely sure about it.
It's going to be a great shove. Like, not just a good shove, it's going to be a great shove. And it's going to be a glorious hand to review later.
So there's no reason that we shouldn't watch it. Well, I think it's quite good format specific spot to be go through.
Yeah. I marked the hand.
But I think you have started your games pretty strong. There has been just loads and loads of chips coming to your way.
Yeah. It's like I have already won at least $3.5 in the 1.5, so.
Woohoo! Awesome.
So we are like, buy 6 tournaments, get 1 free.
Yeah.
But I think like in Tallinn, when we arrived here, there were a lot of stuff in the news that like people were screwed in with regards of their housing. Like the prices came down something like 40% or even like were cut down in half, like pretty much overnight. And like Estonians had a lot of problems, like no Estonian banks were giving out loans, so they had quite a few problems in like getting the houses moved. And like I think around now where we live there are a lot of houses that we saw that were left like halfway done. And I think like during this year a lot of those houses have been completed, and we were told that there were like just people that they couldn't afford selling those because then they would have left with no house but more debt than the house is worth, and also they couldn't afford to pay more to get the houses done. So it was a nasty situation, and I think because of that the situation is more healthier in Tallinn than the situation is in Finland. I think like in Finland it's going to still be that there hasn't been a spot where the bubble would have burst, and like houses in Helsinki, they are pretty much kept artificially quite high because of the cities not zoning enough new houses, and you can't build houses there that people would like to get. So it's more like if Helsinki changes their planning style, the current houses are going to get reduced in price. And
Maybe I should link some of the awesome houses around here that are for sale later on our chat, so you could see the huge difference between Finnish and Estonian situation.
And usually, like one good point is that when we are having pocket queens, usually we are not folding, and we are getting quite screwed against kings. But still, even if we are against the nit, we are just not folding there.
No. Would you have to fold? You probably would have folded jacks, right?
Nah, I wouldn't. I think that there are still too many people. Or I think that there are still going to be too many people that are like, there was one raise, one call, and then someone just shoves 50 big blind stack in. Like there is 150 chips in the middle, and then someone shoves 1.5k in. I'm going to think that their range is not going to be super strong there. Like there are not going to be a lot of points in playing kings or aces that way. I think it's going to be more likely that there's a small to medium pocket pair, and pocket jacks is playing great against those. And even if there is like ace king that people don't want to see flops with, it's still going to be a great spot too.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know if we are advertising Tallinn today, but it's a good place, and we have talked about it quite a few times during the streams and coachings. But if you are interested in working in Tallinn, there's a great website for it. Actually, they have just created one. I think it was workintallinn.com.
Work in Estonia. And
Work.
it's in a way it's quite interesting that during the Friday that Finland stopped, like there was the common day that nobody goes to work except those guys that are owning their own companies. Like during that day, like every advertisement I got from Skype and from Estonian web pages and everything was the work in Estonia.com. Like on the day that Finland stops, they are advertising that really hard.
That's funny. But they are telling about living a life here in Tallinn and what kind of jobs, especially in IT area, and how to handle day-to-day basics and whatnot. Since there are lots of new companies, lots of new startups, and whatnot, open vacancies in Tallinn, and they are not just having enough people, like Estonian people, for example, in IT area to do all the coding and other stuff. So they are recruiting all around the world quite aggressively at the moment.
But in a way, I think that it's an easy place also for a Finn to come here because the culture is quite close, and I think that for something like retiring, Tallinn is probably one of the best places to retire. I think I read about it somewhere. And also something like when Dayah said that she can point out some interesting houses that are in Tallinn, like the situation in Estonia is that probably like I think I have read somewhere that oh quads in Finnish they are called neloset, which means like fours or four of a kind. That's pretty much the same, and that's like the perfect four of a kind. But it's like 95% or something of of the houses in Estonia are built with unique architecture. And if you are like walking around and watching the new areas that have been built, there are some great architectural houses. Like there is no requirement that every house needs to look the same, like there are in some areas in Finland that I know that when we are about the age that people are building houses, and there are a lot of like frustration in Finland that you need to do the same as everybody else in the area. And in here it seems that there is a lot of like creativity, and people are doing pretty much what they want, and sometimes it's awesome, and sometimes it's well, you can tell them apart at some points, and some points it's like
What have you been thinking about? Or maybe you should have been thinking about something.
and Marcus Wise says that Moldran called quads two pair of fives yesterday.
That's awesome.
I don't know, I have been playing quite a few hands with Moldran lately. I think I have played like during these last 2 days something like 700 hands with Moldran,
Oh, that's
and
nice.
that's quite a few hands. And I think that he plays better than what it seems like on his stream, like on average.
Yeah, you said that maybe we should play Hypers today because there's a chance that Moldron is playing and we can get into his stream and then he can be on our stream and then we can just, make interesting spots and maybe talk about them later on. But no, 50-50 is tonight. But in Tallinn, it's really nice when you can just be amazed every single time you walk around or go to a new area where you haven't been before, because there's always nice things to see. And that's basically quite often not the case in Finland. Of course, I shouldn't be comparing Tallinn to Finland, but uh, anyways, I highly recommend to explore other areas in Tallinn other than just the city center or old town.
And even if you know some place in here, it seems that like at least in the city center, they are tearing down and they are also building quite quickly new areas. Like Ace 10 is probably going to be on the edge. I don't think that it's not going to be a big thing if you open or if you fold, but I think that's quite on the edge. That you can fold, you can call. But like I'm not sure that if Moldran would be a winning player, but I don't think that he's going to be a player that's worth like trying to get a game with him.
So has he really streamed 16 hours straight or just combined? If he has been streaming for
Like
16.
his stream showed like this is going to be a 24-hour plus stream, so
Ah, okay. I haven't checked him.
Mm. nice spot when there would be an opportunity to play against players that we likely want to play against.
Maybe would have been bad.
I don't know. I think it's going to be quite close between isolating and limping. And it's also like it's one of the weak points. Like if you don't have any software of like keeping you sitting out and utilizing time banks. Like in other tournaments, it's not a problem because the time bank always starts when you have put money in, and you have always put money in because of the antes. But in here, because there is no antes, the time bank doesn't kick in the early levels if you don't have any software clicking the button.
I didn't realize that.
I did, because the hand got folded even though it didn't go through time bank. And I even can't click time bank myself because some of my HUD blocks are in the way in the 10 max tables. And Nikkiben Isofani asks, what do you think about the min 3 bets in position by regs? Well, it depends a lot on reg. There are some regs that are doing it only with nuts, and against those guys it's usually, if they are giving away their hand, like if they are doing some smoke signals and saying that I'm having a great hand, I don't mind getting away from hands, and like then I'm probably just calling some hands that I can crack the really great hands, but then it's not going to be a re-raising spot mostly. It's not going to be a re-raising spot except with the absolute monsters, because my opponent is likely having also absolute monsters. Then when there are guys that are doing it a bit more liberally, I don't think that like there are going to be absolute min 3 bets, but there are people that are doing small 3 bets with a wide range, and against those guys it's going to be really enticing to at least call it down with a really wide range and usually let them spoo chips, because usually when they go for a min 3 bet, then they are usually going for bets post flop as well.
Good questions on the chats. Keep them coming. You may ask anything you desire, but we may answer anything we desire. But good to have questions. Should us.
Like answers aren't guaranteed.
Or sensible answers. We try our best, in a way. Like I advertised this a bit weirdly today before you had decided which format you are playing, that people are free to give out their hopes and dreams to you, but then I excluded trips to Mauritius from that part, that you may answer or request some formats, but don't get carried away.
So it's like exactly the same as like Finnish army. Huolia, murheita, turhia toiveita. Trips to Mauritius are not included.
But then I put except from me. Deep silence. That's going to be an interesting spot.
Yeah. That's probably going to be a crappy spot. Any bankroll management tips? Well, first tip is don't go broke. Going broke sucks. Don't do it. You don't have to do it. Annoyed. Just annoyed. That's a really nasty spot, because this guy is going to look so so tight and like, what am I beating here? But still,
It's like that's the smoke signals. Like I've got the nuts. I've got the nuts. If you're that tight, you almost never 3-bet. You never play any hands, and then you 3-bet to an early opener. Like,
and Moge from Finland says that my problem is always to play too high for my bankroll, and I want to take now poker seriously.
if you know you are playing too high, don't.
That's a good tip.
Like,
And it's like
if you are concerned that you are playing too big of a game,
you
then
are.
you are.
Yeah. But it's in a way like it depends a lot on the game you are playing, how comfortable you are with your game, what's your edge on your opponents, and all those things are going to be required for recommending a bankroll for a certain type of a game. And Half Passion, thanks for the comment.
Nice to see you. But basically,
Yep.
If you think about your bankroll, the more the merrier. It's like the chips, the more the merrier. And if somebody's saying you for any format that surely 50 binds is enough, he's a liar or she's a liar. And there can be so much more variance than you can ever even think that it's possible. And I'm talking about that from the experience.
For regular speed, heads up sit and goes, 50 buy-ins can be enough. Like if you are having a 10% edge, it's going to be really hard to lose 50 buy-ins in heads up sit and goes.
But who plays those really? If that's like if you think about every single format in sit and goes, and that's like one specific compared to everything else, it's like
Also, regular speed double or nothings, they will also have quite low bankroll requirements.
it's still more than 50 buy-ins. It's gotta be more. Well,
Depends on your edge.
Well, if it's huge and you are playing a low buy-in levels,
The buy-in level doesn't matter that much. It's only your edge and the structure. But in general, if you are not playing regular speed heads ups, 50 buy-ins is not going to be a solid bankroll. And Virpa says that in many sites you can ask customer support to prevent you playing for certain limits. Actually, that's one quite good point, and there have been like a few of my students that have had the problem with the playing too high buy-ins, and I have recommended to them to use the PokerStars system of like restricting yourself from playing bigger buy-ins. And the system is quite nice in PokerStars because usually the problem with playing too high is that you are getting tilted about something and you are doing snap in the moment decision of going to play higher. But with the PokerStars system, how it works is that you can change the buy-in levels yourself, but all the changes require 24-hour grace period. So when you change or when you remove the limits, it's going to take 24 hours. And usually after 24 hours, you have thought a bit more clearly about it. So, but like if if you are having a problem that you are playing too big and you are requiring to have like these adjustments that you are thinking about taking poker more seriously, probably I'm thinking more that don't. Like if you are having problems with bankroll management at starting the games, it's probably going to be really hard in the long run as well. And Half Passion says that $1.5.45 and $3.5.45 has a difference between the gameplay. I don't think that there's that major difference. The regs are going to be better at 3.5s, and I think that in 45s there will be really good some of the really good regs that are playing only 45s are going to play 3.5s as well, because 45s are not going to run that much. But I don't think that any like really good regs are playing the 1.5s at 45s. And that's actually good to know. When Danita said that increasing your limit takes always 24 hours, but increasing your limits is going to take 24 hours. But I don't think that there's like that big of a difference between 1.5s and 3.5s. Like in these games, like right now of these 50-50s that we are playing, I think in these games there has been a bigger difference than I would think. Like at 1.5s, there are plenty of players that I would love to play against. But in here we might have a table that there is a reg. First of all, there is a reg, and then there are like these guys are looking quite solid. Well, there are at least two more guys that are looking quite solid, and there are quite a few guys in general that are looking solid. Like we are coming from something like one or two reggae looking guys a table to three or four reggae looking guys a table. It's still, I think that these 3.5s are still looking quite awesome, but we can see in these games that from 1.5 to 3.5s, the difference is quite big.
Yeah, I agree. And if we get to the $7 games, there's going to be a huge difference to these, I'm quite sure.
Yeah, I think that $7 games are going to be, those are going to be like if you are living in Eastern Europe or something. Eastern Europe, Thailand, China, Russia. Like if you are living in those countries or somewhere in Latin America like Costa Rica or somewhere, it's going to be enough to make a living. Like not a glorious living, but enough to make a living anyways. In here actually I think that these guys' stack size are going to be so high, and it's going to be so horrible for them if I reopen the betting and there will be spots where one of these guys will be eliminated from contesting the pot. But unfortunately it didn't happen. One other option would have been in here to try to only call with pocket fours and then try to shove almost any two.
Yeah, it would have been better if you had more of stack there, then it would probably worked better, but with that small of a stack, it's not really a threat to anyone.
And Danita says that my main reason is to put limit is to avoid accidental regging for too high gains. That's a good point.
That's a really good point, because there's always a possibility to put some misclicks in while registering to those games, so it's a really good point. And especially if you are worried about tilting and just slashing your bankroll to a $100 hypers or whatnot, then the limits are an absolute must for you if you don't want to get broke.
But I think that in most cases, if there is a possibility that you are doing like you might be doing a stupid decision if you can do it instantly, going to delay the option of doing the option that you want to avoid. something like if you are quitting smoking, if you are having tobacco in your house, it's going to be way easier to like break your promise in being a non-smoker. But if you need to like go to your car and then go to a store to get your tobacco, it's going to be way easier to keep the promise. Or something like if you are having a diet and you are worried that you are going to eat a lot of chocolate. If you don't have any chocolate at home, then it's going to be way easier to keep the promise or keep the diet than if you are having like easy options. Or like you are having a list of doing things tomorrow.
Well, it's always easier to start the diet the next day or the next Monday.
Oh, you are talking about the Mexican diet.
The Mexican diet,
Yeah,
mañana.
yeah. It always starts tomorrow.
I like that.
But right now, if there are no points, like in 50/50s, these are like there are going to be two games in one. Like there is one game of having a survival. It's the same exact game. It's the same exact game. In here I could also have called because then this guy would have better option to call and we would have gotten like 250 chips in more often near the bubble. But like in these games, it's going to be like one half is going to be a double or nothing, and one half is going to be winner takes it all because all the chips are worth the same. So in that spot, it's going to be an there are going to be some interesting situations in the games because if you are thinking about it that there is a there is a value for every chip. It's not like double or nothings where you can it doesn't matter like which type of a stack size you are getting to the money with. But in these cases, like there is an opportunity to increase your stack size all the time and there is like more play available to you. And in a way it's going to be better, like you don't have to be as tight as you would have to be in a double or nothing, and it's going to be a harder game to like collude in. So there will be not that many problems with collusion in this type of a game. So in general I think that I like these games compared to double or nothings. Even though in double or nothings I think that there might be a good point that in double or nothings the it can be in double or nothings it can be better. I think the game can be better for really good regs because there will be bigger mistakes that people can make when there is more ICM effect in the games. And also like in these games when growing your stack is always going to be good, it's it's going to be that players that are taking part in too many pots, like usually players that are beginners are taking part in too many pots, it doesn't it doesn't hurt you as much in these games than in double or nothings. And Kauris says that so don't smoke. We don't.
Back at you. You know it's not easy.
But it's about the point in like having a commitment device in that you can't do a decision instantly that you are now feeling bad, so you are just going to do a decision and start smoking again. But if you are the longer you make the path to break your promise, the easier it's going to be keeping those. I think Dan Ariely, that's one of my favorite economists. And how do you spot an economy major? Like he's having favorite economists.
Who does that? Yeah, go ahead. But Dan said this time. Heard quite a few of those sayings.
But there have been like research on different type of commitment devices, and that's probably the a good keyword to search, and I think that's exactly this case. I think that when there's such a big blind, we can add a lot of pressure in here, and even though and getting this big blind here, it's going to make it. It's not like it's not as good as an unopened spot, but it's quite good spot.
It's sweet spot.
And a lot of threes in your tournament ID. Oh, whoa.
That's true.
I can see at least 3. 7 threes out of 10 numbers. Like in Estonia, we have only poker from PokerStars. We don't have the casinos. So it's like the slot machine of the numbers, and this is almost a grand prize.
That sounds a bit desperate, don't you think?
A bit desperate.
Like we don't have the casinos, but we have many trees.
Oh wow.
Why did he go with that?
I don't get it.
So strange.
This I understand, but calling with ace-7, I don't think that it's going to be profitable at any point.
Yeah, but as you might have guessed, Dan Ariely is our favorite economist. But you should look for his books, and especially if you like to listen audiobooks, go search for him. There's some really awesome pieces of information and other stuff that might be somehow related to poker life.
I think that there is a ton of stuff that's applicable from behavioral economics to poker, because there are going to be so many situations that you know that people are going to be illogical on the poker table. Like one of the situations you'll notice that people are irrational on poker table, it's like if we are having a situation heads up, basically the situation mathematically is pretty much exactly the same, no matter like who has the higher stack size. But the player with the higher stack size is always going to be calling a bit wider, and the player with the higher stack size is always also going to be shoving a bit wider. Like on average when we are talking about large samples. And I think that was quite cool in finding out. And there are some points like if you are really good in heads up, you might have like you don't want to, when you are having the smaller stack, you don't want to get your stack in as light, because if you are eliminated from the tournament, then you cannot apply your edge anymore in the games. But I think that the differences are way bigger than that. Really nasty. I don't like the situation at all, because I don't think that we are going to have big enough stack here to make our opponent fold. Also, like the blinds are going higher in 2 minutes.
I think Sandra Maciel found out that too.
Yeah, so actually, I think that in this case, when Snurik could be forestalling before us, I think that this is going to be a spot where stalling is going to be the best equity option. Unfortunately, we can't get the blinds increased to Chelsea, so
Oh dear, oh dear.
in a way, we could have pressed any of the three buttons. And I think any of the three buttons would be quite awesome.
Oh dear.
I must say that I'm not loving the life right now. I think that I'm getting better equity options later on. Like, if my opponents are having the option of getting more money in, it's going to be better. And there was one opportunity for our opponent to hit, and then there is an opportunities for getting a draw or something that they want to call with.
You don't want to get give them free card either
In a way,
either on the river
in
because
a way, I like to give them free cards when I'm having aces.
yeah,
There's so
but on the
few.
turn when the turn has came and there is a two
I don't
hearts.
think that the flush draw matters that much. I think that we can afford to give our opponents free cards here.
You know that you say it now, and then when you give out one free heart river and they hit the flush, then you hate your life.
Yeah, but it's only it, and it doesn't even matter that often. Like, they still need to have two hearts, and that's not going to be that likely, because if they are having two hearts, they are quite likely also trying to push money all in and trying to exert fold equity against us there, I think.
Hard to say, because if Chelsea had, for example, two hearts, I think he was also quite afraid of the situation.
But like, I don't think that there is going to be that many spots where we would be that worried about giving extra cards with when we are holding pocket aces. Like, I think people are mostly they are playing a bit too scared when they are having a great hand. And like, if we are thinking about those spots, even against if we are thinking about those spots against two ranges, I think that even with almost all the heart rivers, if we are thinking our opponent's whole ranges, our equity is still going to be quite good. I think the heart rivers are going to be among the worst, and something like probably Jack of Hearts is going to be the worst card for us. But I'm still thinking that, like, in a way, I want to put more money in on the turn. And why do I want? Because then there will be also, when there will be flush draws, there will be straight draws. I think that it will be easier to get my opponent's money in with a draw, and they are not having that great equity with their draw against my pocket aces. But if they are failing their draw, they are not going to pay any more on the river. And if they are getting their draw, then I'm getting screwed on the river. So
But that's why I agree that you should have played it in that way, not giving out free river card.
yeah, I think there are points both ways. Also, like, if they are having something like Jack or a King and they are hitting the Jack or King, or even ace. Of course, there will be less combinations with an ace, but if they are hitting their pair, then they are going to call on the river that they wouldn't call necessarily on the turn.
So now we are back to $7 games. We'll see who's here.
I think this guy might be a reg.
Might be a reg. Yeah, for sure.
And this guy is not only getting brownie points, but my chips as well. With pocket eights, I think that there is also a point in not c-betting the flop, but I think that we are going to do fine, even though we are turning the middling hand into a bluff there, because it's going to be quite unlikely that we are going to get to the showdown with it unimproved.
True. Probably Flygon is a reg too.
Probably.
So as you see, there is quite a few more regs compared to previous games. Going up. And actually that's one of the reasons I stopped playing 50-50s, because even those $15 games started to be like a huge reg fest. So they were so invested in regs that there was just no, in many points there were just no point to reg straight in, because you would be just battling with other ones, other good players, and only the stars would be the one making money out of it. So it's a shame though. I kind of miss these at the times when I see you playing these, but then the realization comes by and says hello, and can you see all the regs in the higher buying games? These are not that bad at the moment, but we'll
But
see.
we are only on sevens.
Yeah, only on sevens, and there's a lot of people you don't know, and there might be some new regs you don't recognize yet, so who knows?
Yeah, so these haven't been my main games. I did a 2 weeks project in these against one of our members, in trying to catch him when I started with a $150 bankroll, and he started with $1,650 bankroll, and it didn't go that well, or it did go quite well during the first week, but the second week was horrible. But then I learned a lot about the regs and a lot about these games as well, because I thought that these games are like, if you are thinking from hypers, these games are like from average length, these are going to be the next games, like these are going to be the shortest games after hypers, like hyper 9 max and 50-50s. Those are not having us, like average length is not going to be wildly different. I think the average game length is something like 3 or 4 minutes apart.
And these games are so easy to multi-table as well.
I think that's one part why these games are also so reg infested, because these games are probably the easiest game to multi-table, because you are always guaranteed that you are not getting a shorter table than a 6-player table.
You don't have to worry about playing shortly or heads up, or your hands are coming way too often.
Now I think that we are going to get brownie points. Or we are going to get our chips back. Because our chips need friends.
Brownie points doesn't sound as good as you might think, darling.
I like brownies.
And that's one thing. If you ever consider mentioning brownies like 5 times during 1 hour, you have to make sure that you have some brownies in your cupboard for your fiance if you keep talking about them. Because otherwise it's just teasing.
Are you saying that my brownie game is not balanced?
I could say that. You are overplaying your hand there. Your bluff is not working.
And Neo1186 asks, like, what reg count is acceptable in $15 games, 9max and 5050s? How much effort in game selection makes sense? I see some regs not caring playing with 6 or 8 other regs, at least in $7 9max sit and goes. I think that there is the difference that you can make money even if you are playing even if you are playing nine reg games occasionally, you can still make money, especially if you are among the better part of the players. But in a way, it's quite counterintuitive to play, like if you are playing a 9max game with, like, let's say that there is 7 other regs and there is like one player that's random but not like a player that you would know that you like, I want to play against this guy. It's going to be quite likely the game is going to quite likely be a game where all the regs are going to lose a bit of money. So it's like all the regs probably would make more money if they wouldn't have played the game. And those are not going to be the greatest spots for regs. I personally think that regs should like think at least a bit about game selection.
And it is quite surprising to see that there are so many regs that they don't give a shit about it at all.
But usually you can see those regs that they are not among the players that are earning the most. They might be among the players that are playing the highest volume, but in poker it's always about, these games are volume games, but it's also like volume times quality. Like your results will be your volume times your ROI. And I think that like quite the solid recommendation is that I think that there will be a good player can make money in 9maxes if there are 6 total regs. I think on every such game will be a good game for a really good player. And something like, I think that you can even afford going with 7 regs if the 2 players are really going to be players that you want to play against. But going for like 8 regs in 9max, that's probably going to be too much. I think it's going to be quite the same in 5050s. Like if you are having 3 random players, I think that it's going to be enough that you can make money. Like in 5050s, the rake is going to be a bit smaller than in a comparable 9max. And especially, it depends also, like in a normal speed 5050, I think that you can have either even a little, you can even play a little worse games than in the turbos. And in turbos, if you are having like 2 really bad players and 8 regs on the game, I think that that's a game that's in the edge of profitability. And in general, the better games you play, the more you also make money. And it's like, it's usually not going to be like if you don't like playing poker that much that you just like don't like if you are playing poker professionally you'll usually want to just play games that you are winning money in. And of course there are like looking through the Calleon's video on Session Lord, for example, shows you some examples on how you can use software to automatically select you better games.
Yeah, as you are watching us on Twitch, just scroll down a little bit and there is a banner that says Session Lord. Click it and there's going to be more information about it. And if you want to give it a try, please visit our forum and there is more information. There is some Calleon's made informational videos how to use it, and you can always get it by using our references, and it would be highly recommended to do so.
And I think like it's having one of the most generous trials that you can have like 1 month's trial for everything, and then after that you can have like 1 hour every day to try the stuff that you don't have the license with. I think it's quite smart that you can have like you can't grind with the 1 hour, but you can always get a taste on how good it is.
And of course you can visit our YouTube channel. There is way over 600 poker videos already made by us. Pokerimania, www.youtube.com/pokerimania. Please subscribe, like our videos, share with your friends, and let's build up an even bigger community. And while I'm at it, let me advertise some more. If you are afraid that you will miss our coachings or some poker nights, just follow us on Twitter/Pokerimania, or if you prefer to use Facebook, we are there too, easy to remember. Facebook.com/Pokerimania. Wouldn't be any more simpler than that. Follow, like, share, subscribe, tweet, anything.
And Nicky Penisafan, is there any good interviews about you? Which one of us? And it's like, do you mean that do you want an interview that the interviewee wouldn't be drunk or?
Or we actually would say something clever.
I don't think that problem can be solved by anything like
by a sober interviewee.
yeah, like I think then if you need interviewees that are going to say something clever, then you need to interview someone else.
Oh, that's true. That's so true. If you want to get something clever out of us, just don't hold your breath. There's actually quite a few interviews of us, but probably something that we shouldn't advertise it. If you want to interview us, please send us your questions. That would be awesome. Should we make a thread about that? You can ask us anything and then we could just read them out loud and answer something.
Now I'm going to try that. Am I giving easy values to nits? Because like that's something that we are trying to avoid.
Was that the game plan of ours?
I thought that if he's a nit, then nits like to knit, and if a nit likes to knit, then they are like even when they are opening with a smaller range, they are also calling with a smaller range because they like to knit against the re-raise as well.
Because nits are gonna knit. And we are not talking about knitting, the the hats and mittens and stuff like that. Knitting. Just to clarify. Because that would be awesome coaching. How to knit by Pokermania.
Or like how much you can knit while playing like 10 tables of poker at the same time. What else can you do while multi-tabling on?
Yeah. Surprisingly many things. Surprisingly. But it needs some very good practice just to make sure that not everybody's going to try knitting while multi-tabling the first time ever. I think we are giving out like awesome tips today. Like don't knit while multi-grinding.
Yeah, don't knit while multi-tabling. That's also going to be quite a top tip, because I think that most of the guys that are regs in these games are probably going to play with too tight of a game plan. And I think that like if you are looking at some of the regs that are playing most games here, I think that there will be quite a few players that are going to play with a really tight game plan. And I think that the more players there are with a really tight game plan, the more it's also going to pay out if you are having a more active game plan early on. So I think like winning in the higher stakes than $7 games will also require not only knitting but opening up the game. Like I think 1.5s and 3.5s, I think our basic game plan can be quite tight. But from sevens onwards, like sevens I think will be like a meeting point. I think that you can still win in these and play quite nitty, but at 15s I think it's going to be quite hard.
So next time when Tuk is coming to visit us in Tallinn, let's redo the interview. I don't know. I guess we are not that interesting people, are we? We might be a bit weird. We talk whatever.
Everyone is.
True. But it's nice to be here after quite a break. From my part, I mean.
When were you here the last time around? On stream?
Must be something like 2-3 months ago or something.
Oh, you did the...
No, I did the nice evening, the kuohujuomailta, the bubbly...
The ladies' bubbly drink edition.
Yeah, I did that, but you weren't there.
Yeah.
That was good. And I did that in Finnish with my friend from the forum, Marix. And we were drinking sparkling wine, and she was playing twisters and coral poker.
Like those are spin and goes, but there will be antes involved.
Yeah, it was really nice. Maybe I should, or maybe I will do that again. And that was something that I think that went surprisingly well, considering that I have never been like a host to a stream, and Marix has never been on a stream herself. But we were just chatting all the way and answering questions and having fun, drinking bubbly wine. That was fun. But the last time I was here with you was probably sometime in the summer. But then I was away for a while and we were exploring Finland, making a bit of a trip there, visiting our family. So it's been a while.
Limp, limp. I think that in this case, shoving will be the most plus EV way to play it, because there will be so much dead money in the pot already. And 12L1, at the higher stakes of the 50-50s, it becomes quite usual for the regs to not play that tight, at least from what I have expected. Yeah, I think that was what I was trying to get that at the later stakes, the average reg is going to be more aggressive, because it's going to be really hard to win with a really tight game plan. I think that's like a bit of a Darwinism in action. Like, I can't vote this against, even though min race 3 betting looks so bad. But if it's not from a good player, but pocket tens, I'm so close that I just want to give them up. Aces.
That was the gut feeling. Too bad. I'm sorry to hear about that, Kaleon, that V-Coup is over from your part.
And half passion said that does Poker Mania have paying coaching videos like 45's videos? All of our videos are on the YouTube channel, so all of our videos are free. But you can get private coaching. You can get private coaching for a fee. And I think both me and Caleon are doing private coaching. That would help many players that are struggling with 45s.
There is information about it on our forum on pokerimania.com/forum private coaching, and there is all the information you need and how to contact our coaches. And of course, we did end up winning during the women night. Actually, Mareks played quite nicely and she was running really hot. Congrats about that if you're listening. And she ended up winning quite a lot of money actually.
I think it was like something like 60 or 70% ROI or something completely insane.
Yeah, she hit like many bigger multipliers and just aced all of them basically. There's a video of it in Finnish if you want to see and watch it. It's on YouTube as well and on her blog on the Finnish side. If you are Finn or understand Finnish, go ahead and watch it if you dare.
And 12L1, it has kind of switched from the earlier days. I'm playing the 50-50s for years now. I think that the difference has been a bit like, I think that the average player, even at the higher stakes, I think that they played a lot tighter when it was closer to the double or nothing days, because on double or nothings you need to be so tight from early on, because you are getting punished so heavily if you are colliding in early game. So I think that might have had an impact on it. But I think that I agree that there are, or at least at the higher stakes, there are going to be players that are going to be more aggressive, or regs in general are going to be more aggressive. But that's probably what happens in pretty much every game. 5 big blinds. Because this is like UTG+1 and UTG+2, I think that folding is going to be best, because it's going to be so likely that one of these guys is going to have a great hand. And Ace-5 is somewhat of a surprise.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been there.
At least as a race call.
Yeah.
But like pocket nines, it's not going to be a surprise. Probably going to be close to the bottom of Lenska's range there.
But I think if you think about the lower buy-in levels, and there has been some cases that people have been asking about situations and they haven't realized how different of a structure and format this is from Double or Nothings, and they have previously played those somewhere else and just keep on playing with the same idea on their head with the 50-50s and wondering that why I'm losing this much money all the time and this is not working for me anymore. So it's not the problem within the Rex, of course not, but there might be some cases when some people who are new to this format don't know exactly what's the deal with it.
But like if we are looking at these games right now, that there are like 3 regs in this top left game, I'm thinking that in the long run, like these guys are pretty much carbon copies of each other. But I think like Lenska is going to be a more aggressive reg, and I think that he's probably winning more from these games than these 2 guys that are playing a lot tighter strategy. In this case, I think that it's going to be better with about 4 big blinds to min raise, and I think that we are getting more fold equity by a small raise than a shove. It hides our stack size somewhat, especially against players that are multi-tabling a lot.
That's true.
And in these games, there will be a lot of players that are multi-tabling a lot. But it's also, in a way, it's going to be also about what kind of a games do you have on average. Like when we did $1.5 games, there were a lot of like this is through the stakes, so we start with 1.5s, gone to 3.57s, etc. And like with 1.5s, I think that it's going to be quite an optimal strategy to play with quite a tight strategy, because there will be so many players playing so many hands on those games and playing those passively. And if they're playing like loose passively, pretty much the optimal strategy would be to like tighten up a bit. And if there are multiple players that are going to play loose passively, you don't need to like try to win all the chips from all of them at the same time. But like later on, it's also like if there are only 2 or 3 players that are going to be clear losers in the game, it's going to be one way to get edge in the games is going to be playing more against those players that are leaking the most money. So then it might make sense playing more against those players and playing with a wider general range to be able to play more. And also, if other players are playing tighter, then it also doesn't punish you as much if you are playing wider. 8-9 suited. I think this is going to be a shove, and this is like pretty much the same as a shove, but in a way, I think that the fold equity that we are getting is going to be higher with a min raise than a shove. And we are never folding in these cases, of course.
Never. The fold button should be destroyed from that part. Actually, we have quite a few 50-50s videos on our YouTube channel already. So take a look at those if you like the format.
This is also like one point. If it would be like six or seven handed, this would make a lot more sense as a min raise than a shove, or not a min raise but a limp than a shove. It's like small things, but in these games it's somewhat also about the small stuff as well.
it might make a big difference, even though it doesn't seem like it at all times, but it could be the deciding point that whether you stay in the game or you get booted.
But like I think that in the $15 games, I think that the ROIs are somewhere like 3 to 4%, which can be achieved by the absolute best players that are also thinking about game selection somewhat. So then it's also going to be that even if there is something that might increase your ROI by a 0.5%, it might be more important. Or like the games that the closer the game is to profitability, the I think the more you should be searching for the thin edges. Wow. Wow. I don't think that we actually, if this guy calls with any two cards, then this isn't good. But if he folds even some part of his range, it doesn't need to be a large part, then it starts to be a lot better.
He shouldn't be folding anything.
He shouldn't be. But if we need to play every hand like our opponents are playing it perfectly, we really should probably game select a bit more. Like if we think that our opponents are playing every hand perfectly, it would be like, what the fuck are we doing in the game then? Not making money. If everybody plays perfectly, then it's going to be, because I'm quite sure that I'm not playing perfectly. But if we are expecting everybody else to play perfectly, then it's a game that we shouldn't be playing. Like UTG opens UTG +1, shoves for 2.3 big blinds. I actually don't think that we can call. Something like King Jack suited would probably be on the edge. Like, we don't want to knit there, and like pocket queens versus, I don't even know the other hand yet. 6-7 suited. Actually, not even that surprising. In a way, I think that that's a mistake for the. It's actually. It is a mistake for the Deuceman, because there is going to be quite a good opportunity for this Deuceman. Like, our stack size is going to be really low on the previous hand. Like, if we are looking at it pre the hand, like when our stack size is going to be so low, there is going to be a decent opportunity for this guy to jump over the big blind. Like, if we get eliminated or this Xitriu gets eliminated, then the button jumps and he might be able to. Actually, no, he can't get rid of the big blinds, so it's not that big of a difference.
No, only both of you.
Yeah, but that's going to be really.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, sorry, I just thought that he was earlier on.
But basically, he has 3 hands time to pick one of them to go all in.
Yeah, and 6-7 suited, it's like it plays even against the tight range, it plays okay. But I still think that it's going to be too bad of a hand when one player has already risked a sizable amount of his stack from UTG.
And everybody else is still able to come in.
But that's something that I see players do a lot of mistakes in. If they're having a short stack, but there is a short stack on the small blind or big blind that's really likely to get eliminated on the next hands, and they are like doing desperation shoves on the big blind, even when it's going to be really likely that they could also jump over the big blind, which will be a huge equity jump, since you are losing equity when you are getting the big blind, and it's going to be a better spot for you if you are jumping straight from under the gun to small blind. And it's the way that PokerStars has chosen to run the games.
So 8 players left on the last game of the $7.
I don't know. I think that we have had quite a good run already, so I think that this might be the last game for today. So let's make it count.
So you better win it, right?
I'm in it to win it.
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't register yourself into a game you are planning to lose, right? So if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask.
Yeah, like if we are having only one table going on that has 8 players remaining.
And some of the hands are pretty easy, that they just play themselves, so it's like self-explanatory. So it's not like it's a high mathematics or anything, like what should we do now?
But what should we do now?
Do you need me to tell you what to do now?
I know that you can't tell me.
I don't tell you anything.
But it's like, this isn't an easy spot because we are 5th out of 8. Because there's 3 even smaller stacks than ours. It isn't as easy, even though we are having a good hand, but not great hand. But there will be players that are going to be eliminated early on with quite a high probability.
I wouldn't have given a shit about that, to be quite honest. I would have just shoved from the earlier on. But that's just me.
Like, you didn't take notice that we would be the player that would remain glorious.
Glorious! I noticed that there were small stacks, but still, if you get afraid of those situations when there is a...
This is going to be a sit and go that you could like sing a heroic metal song, like
You could, but you won't, right?
when I'm folding ace king off, I'm not one for doing a maneuver type of a thing here. Like, that's a situation like no balls, no calls, but it's just something that it's just not profitable when this demon is not all in yet. If he would have been all in on the previous hand,
With Antes, for example.
yeah, it would be easy for us. It's your fault. Like, you said that there isn't going to be any hard decisions anymore, and then there has been like 0 easy hands.
Yeah, sure. It's my fault. Sure it is. Oh dear. But there's one... How can you exploit multi-tabling Rex?
And that's quite of a good question, and it's in a way, I think one good point is that if you are a multi-tabling ready yourself, you probably have known that what makes really hard spots for you. So I think that's one of a pretty good tip.
That's colorful. It's almost like a rainbow. Not.
Yeah, that's colorful. Like one adjusted buy-ins one and something like 2 real buy-ins one. It was quite glorious for the start with the 1.5 cent. But 3.5s weren't as nice.
One quick tip for Nikkipe's fan. that if you paid attention, we made some of those min races with really small stacks. And that's something when you probably, if you're multi-tabling a lot, you see only that you need to call fold or re-raise.
Yeah.
And if you just face that, it's kind of an easier just to see, okay, my hand is this, the overall situation is this, I just fold. But if you see that, okay, you need to call like 2.7 big blinds, then you can see exactly the amount to call if you are all in with your small stacks. It's easier to call because then you get then the guy who has to make the decision how to go on with the hand, it's easier to see the whole case. So by hiding the whole situation even a little bit helps you to exploit maybe some of those situations.
And I think also one thing that there are like people are doing the non-all-in plays. I think that almost always the non-all-in plays are better done as a straight up min race than doing for something like if you are having 60 and 100 or 120 would be the big blind. If you are having something like 485 chips, I've seen some players do something like then they are raising to 460. But I think it's not going to be optimal. And I have seen that the more you are keeping it as if a big stack would open, like a big stack wouldn't open for 460. Like if you are making your opponent think, then you are exploiting the multi-tabling reg wrong. Like when they start needing to think, then they are going to take note that something is wrong in the situation. Like a multi-tabling regs are, they can do it so well because they know most of the situations they are coming to on the tables, and like they are having quite a good autopilot going on. So if you are keeping everything inside the autopilot, like if you are doing a min race at the spot, then they are like, the first thing that their autopilot is doing is like, what would I do against the min race against the bigger stack here? Because the most of the time they are seeing the min race from a bigger stack. But like if you are having seen something like 460 open at 60 to 120, then it's like, why does my opponent do this? And when I need to think, then I next thing that I do would be to take note into the whole situation. Um, let's take this pocket nines as well, because I think this is going to be quite close. So this was a spot where the biggest stack shoved, demon is all in from blinds, and there was a smaller stack than us already calling. So like the only way we are risking our whole stack here and getting in the money would be that both Lenska and Demon are winning us and also winning the tank Frizrak. That's going to be a hard name to say. And let's select the 50-50 price structure. And 12L1 says, what would you say is the biggest difference of the reg speed 50s compared to turbo speed 50-50s? Well, the amount of time the blinds take. I think that the biggest difference will be that the reg speeds are going to be way softer. Like way softer. So I think that the reg speeds are probably having like double to triple the possible ROI of the turbos. And that's something to take into account. And the problem is that the reg speeds aren't running that high up. And also it's a bit like what I said on the last time that we did regular speed 9 maxes compared to turbo 9 maxes. the difference is that like there is less spots than in the turbo 50/50s, that you need to understand that like who is going to be forced all in next, because the average stack size are going to be closer to 5 to 6 big blinds when the last guy is eliminated on the table. Did that make any sense?
Kinda. I hope.
And this is actually a crappy hand to look through. This is probably going to be a hand that's pretty close to impossible to analyze with Hold'em Resources calculator, since we are having at least 3 people all in, and we can't remove this player that's forced all in here. And we can't remove him from this spot, because then we wouldn't have a bubble situation.
True.
So this is something that we can like have an idea of, that we could do pocket force against a tank freeze rack. And I think that when we can do pocket force against tank freeze rack, we should have called this with pocket eights.
I agree. We should have called it.
Like, and especially when there is like, I think that there is like 12 opportunities on how to arrange players when there's going to be a 4-way all-in. And out of those 12 possibilities, when we are the second largest stack, there's only one single opportunity how it can go, that we don't get the survival monies. And that's exactly the opportunity that the Prisrak is going to be third, we are going to be fourth, and then also the first and second place players need to be in the right order. Like the very shortest stack needs to be first, second shortest stack needs to be second, we need to be fourth, and tank Prisrak needs to be 11th. So it's like virtually guaranteed that we are going to make money here. But I think that if you are really good in the turbo 50/50s, I think that it's going to be a really easy transition to the reg speeds. But from reg speeds to turbos, I don't think it's that easy, because there will be practically a new skill that you need to learn when you are going to be in spots that you are going to have a really short stack size. And this was a hand that Virpa said that we should probably have called, and I think that we shouldn't, like the biggest stack shoved. And in this case, like if I'm thinking about this with a common sense, like survival is worth 3,000 chips. Like we are getting same exact amount of money if we are having 3,000 chips or if we survive. And we are getting 2 survivals worth of chips if we are surviving with exactly 6,000 chips. And in here, we are risking elimination. So we are risking our own survival here. And we are having survival plus a bit more than 2 survivals worth of. So if we are against our villain's range, if we would have more than, let's say, 65%, I think then we would need to call this one. And what kind of a range would be where we wouldn't get more than about 65%? I think that it would need to be something like 30% ish or something range, or tighter. But we'll see. Let's look at it on Hold'em Resource calculator. But I'm trying to also explain like how I'm thinking these hands with common sense, because
that's what you need to do during the playtime.
Yeah, if you need to crack a hard hand during playtime, that you don't have the answer readily calculated in your memory bank somewhere, then you need to think about the situation with common sense.
But the funny part is that now we find out. We don't need to start well, we don't need to finish with guessing. We will know that for sure in just a few seconds.
So let's say that tank freeze rack is opening 46%. Then actually our range would be surprisingly wide. And if we are looking at his ranges, that let's say plot range versus hand equities, and we are plotting something like, let's plot the top ace type of a hands, and let's plot something like the pocket pairs. That should be quite close, I think. And we are faced with a rainbow once again. Like we can see here that ace king suited we can never fold. Like we are requiring only less than 10% range. Ace king off we should never fold. So this guy is stupid in this point. And I think it's quite likely that our opponent is shoving at least 25%. Even if he's bad, he's going to shove about 25%. And then it's going to be like a 2% of the price pool mistake. So it's like 20 or close to 90% of ROI or something. So this is like a really needy and stupid fold in my part with the ace king off.
There's a question from Danita. Does it affect the result for you that mini stack needs to call almost any two?
He doesn't need to call almost any two here. Like, it shouldn't affect the results because it shouldn't affect the results. Like, it doesn't block the calculation. Hold'em resource is still calculating ladle leaves, even if you really rarely get into those leaves. And there is no other player behind us anymore, so I don't know if this is what you asked about. This would have been an easy call for me if the player would already have. And if I'm thinking like 25% would be what even a needier player would probably shove here. Like ace jack off would even be a call here, and ace jack suited should be a clear call. Ace queen off should be a clear call. And pocket eights would be at the edge. I think this is quite surprising. I wouldn't have called ace jack off or pocket eights, but that's probably why I didn't call ace king off either.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have called ace jack off. That's for sure.
Yeah, like opener should have a really wide range here. I don't think that our opener should have an any two range, but it probably wouldn't be bad for him to have a 50% range in here.
Because the biggest stack was on the UTG, right? And that
UTG +1.
And that was the next one after him.
Our UTG has the biggest stack than this guy has. And in general, I'd like to say that you can't make aggressive calls.
But
like generally you can't instill fear that now I'm going to make an aggressive call. You be careful. It's a bit like a dog being aggressive with wagging his tail really aggressively.
Should I be scared now? Yeah, I think he's not shoving any two by any means. Or probably not even half of his range. Or half of his...
It's like... One thing to remember here is that this guy wasn't a guy that was like in every of our games or would have seemed like a reg. I think that this guy wasn't one of those. And we didn't like have any hands on him on six-handed.
So
And yeah, I'm having like stupid boundaries for 50-50s. Like the optimal boundaries would have been like 6 to 7-handed and then 8 to 10-handed, I think. But because I'm playing mainly 6 maxes and 9 maxes, I'm using my boundaries for, in general, for different games. But so I did 2 stupid folds, and those are practically stupid folds only because of the difference in ICM between 50-50s and 6 max or 9 max sit and goes. Like 50-50s, because of the hybrid price structure, those are basically the only structure that you can. Those are basically the only structure that you can have an increase in the range that you can play against your opponent if your stack size is going to be higher. Like if your stack size is going to be higher in a 9 max or 6 max game, in general you are always going to have a tighter range that you need to play against another big stack. But in 50-50s, if you are having a larger stack, you will have more chances in playing against the other large stack. And then there was a last hand that you said, I think that we should mark. And this was there is a really small stack that folded to us, and then we shoved against the biggest stack. And this is something that I think that this is really, really close to a feel bad hand. Like this kind of a hand, when it works, you don't notice it. When it doesn't work, you are going to feel so stupid for doing it. And I think that this is going to be this is going to be a plus EV hand, and B, this is going to be a really hard plus EV hand to play because this makes you feel bad. And this is one of the reasons that I think poker is going to be a really hard game to learn to play, especially if you are not using mathematics in learning it. Because there might be these kind of feel bad situations that you still need to do, or would be the biggest or highest EV spot or highest EV chance would be a situation where you also almost where you know that you are going to feel bad about it if you see it. And it's like if my opponent calls 58%, then king 8 off is going to be close to break even call. And I think like in $1.5 games, my opponent is going to be calling closer to 40% range in here, I think. And when my opponent is going to be calling closer to 40% range in here, I think I can shove like half of my range. Quite a good estimate. This is what I think that is going to happen here, and this is like a feel bad hand that I played well and got punished for it.
well played, sir.
And I think this is probably the last hand that we had marked today.
That's true. So it's over now.
Do you have anything to say?
It has been fun. Well played. Awesome spots. And thanks for chatting with us, staying with us. We will be here later on as well. So stay tuned. Next week we will have sit and goes and
Next week we don't have sit and goes. Next week we are going to be in Finland. So
yeah, but Kalyan will have sit and go.
Oh, Kalyan will have sit and goes. Yeah. So next Sunday I don't have a set. So next Sunday you are not going to hear my voice.
But we will be back.
We will be back in in the next week after that. And
on Friday there is PLO night. If you prefer Omaha, go and see Kyyperi at the same time, almost. And whatnot.
thanks for everybody active in our chat. It was fun being here and fun to see new faces or new nicknames in our chats, in both the Twitch chat and our own chat. And well,
Ursumetsä kiittää ja kuittaa.
it's been fun. And if you are going to sleep, have a good night. If you are still playing poker, may this be a winning night for you. Bye.
See ya.